No Texas A&M player has gained more stock since the end of last season than Shemar Turner.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. And today we're going to talk a little bit about 5 players who, since the end of last season, have gained the most stock for the Aggies. So, of course, a lot has happened since the end of last season. We've seen a ton of players go, a ton of players come, a new coaching staff come in, completely different roster, completely different staff. So the players we're going to run through are players who were on this roster last season. And we're going to talk about whose stock has risen from last year to this year. And the first player to me is Shemar Turner. I think that, it's funny. You lost some players to the NFL draft. You lost some players to the transfer portal from this defensive line. You gained some players from the transfer portal on this defensive line. But I think that Shemar Turner is a guy who, we thought he would have had a huge season regardless. But I just think he is clear to be the guy on the defensive line now. Listen, you've got Nic Scourton out there now. He's going to be doing his thing. Shemar Turner is going to have a massive season for the Aggies. And I think that while he might not play the same position as some of the defensive linemen who left, less dominant guys up front just make him better. Make it. You're going to have to focus fully on Shemar Turner. McKinley Jackson's gone. Walter Nolan's gone. This opens up opportunities for Shemar Turner to create havoc. And, I think that Turner was a player we go, listen, come back, please come back. And he came back. And I think he has an opportunity this season to really boost some NFL draft stock. I think he has an opportunity to really put himself in a good position and make himself some money this season. Yeah, he's the number one player for me who's raised his off-season draft stock. And when I say stock, I don't mean draft stock. I partially mean draft stock, but I just mean like stock. Like, what do we think? How important is he going to be to this roster? How big of a season? How many sacks? How many tackles? That's kind of what I'm getting at here. And I don't think there's anybody that has had a better offseason than Shemar Turner. I think he's going to have a huge season. I think that Nic Scourton can make him better. I mean, if you really think about it, last year, your guy off the edge was Fadil Diggs, and Fadil Diggs had an okay year. I don't think he had quite as many sacks as I would have hoped. Kind of got off to a slow start, kind of picked it up toward the end of the year. But I think Nic Scourton is a significant upgrade off the edge. And I think that's going to help Shemar Turner be even better, harder to guard. You know what I mean? You can't totally focus on one of them. You got to a little bit focus on both of them. And it's going to help both of them create havoc along the defensive line. It's going to help them get to the quarterbacks and help them stop the run. And I think that Shemar Turner has benefited a lot from some off-season transitions. So that's my number one guy whose stock is raised the most during the off-season. My number 2 guy is Rueben Owens. I don't think it's any kind of secret, any kind of surprise. We all know that Rueben Owens has kind of taken a step to being, hey, we think there's a world where he's the guy. And it's not any kind of knock to Le'Veon Moss. We think Le'Veon Moss is going to be great. I do. I know y'all do as well. But I think that Rueben Owens is really going to take over as that dude in this Texas A&M offense. I think he's going to have a huge season. We've discussed having that freshman to sophomore jump as a former 5-star. So, Rueben Owens, I don't necessarily believe that any changes roster-wise are the reason his stock has risen. I just think flat out he's getting better. He's developing, and this coaching staff loves him. And I think that's going to lead to a lot of playing time for the sophomore, I think he's got a chance to be the dude in this backfield. So I'm excited, really excited to see the type of year that Rueben Owens has, because I think it could be very, very significant. So I'm excited to see how that plays out for Owens. I think he's going to have a massive season. I think he's one of the most underrated running backs in the SEC right now. In all honesty, I think the same could be said about Le'Veon Moss. I think that they're two of the most underrated backs in the SEC, but I think Rueben Owens has got some stuff to prove to people, and he's excited to do so. The next guy on the list is Noah Thomas. We all know that one receiver was going to be on this list. We all know that one guy was kind of going to separate themselves from the bunch this offseason after losing Evan Stewart to the portal and losing Aniyah Smith to the next level. Now Jabari Barber goes down with the injury. You got a wide receiver room in need of a hero. You're in need of a hero, and I think that hero can be Noah Thomas. Someone has to step up and be really good for this Texas A&M wide receiver room. There's, heading into the year, we said, could it be Moose? Could it be Ja'Day Walker? Could it be Noah Thomas? We knew that one of these three guys had to step up and be that dude. And it looks like there's a real world where that's going to be Noah Thomas. I mean, what we saw in the spring game, he looked like a man amongst boys. I mean, he was just massive. He looks massive. He is massive. He's a tall dude. But, I mean, he's getting open. And when he's not open, he's making spectacular catches. I think that Noah Thomas is doing a really good job separating himself. And, yeah, I think there's a world where he ends up being the dude on Texas A&M's receiver core. I mean, it's going to take a little bit more in the offseason, in the summer, excuse me. It's going to take a little bit more. And I think it's something he can do. But, yeah, there is a world where Noah Thomas is the wide receiver one for the Aggies. And I'll be honest with you, I was expecting to be, if I would have known 6 months ago that this was a conversation I was going to be having, maybe 4 months ago, I would have probably expected to be talking about Ja'Day Walker right now. And it's nothing Ja'Day Walker's done wrong. I think he's still going to be great. But I think Noah Thomas has given himself a real shot to be the wide receiver one. So that's number 3. Number 4 is Mark Naboo Jr. Listen, I think Mark Naboo is a guy who gained a lot in the offseason because of Bryce Foster's leaving. There's now about 3 positions that he can fill in at. He can play guard. He can play center. He played a little bit of center and a lot of guard last year. And I think this he's going to be out there in some capacity. The PFF grade last year was fine. It wasn't great. It wasn't spectacular. He was one of those players that he had a fine season, wasn't perfect, wasn't awful, could have been better, could have been worse. But I think that this year is going to be much better. I think he's developing. I think Coach Cushing is going to do wonders for all these offensive linemen, not just Mark Naboo, but I think he's going to really help Mark Naboo. I think he's got a good season coming up, ladies and gentlemen. I think that Foster leaving opens up another opportunity for him to be on the field every single down. And that is why he's a player whose stock has risen. And listen, that was a recent stock rise, as Foster left just a few weeks ago. But, this opens up an opportunity for Mark Naboo to really get out there. My last guy is Terrion York. And this one seems like a layup. I know. But I just think the hype train around Terrion York is starting to really grow. I think that not just Texas A&M fans, but just college football writers, college football fans, enthusiasts all around the world are really starting to buy into, hey, Terrion York's going to be one of the best linebackers in the SEC and all of college football. He's got a massive season ahead. He's going to do a lot well. He's no longer in the shadow of Edgerton Cooper. Coop's now with the Pack up there in Green Bay. And it's York's time to shine. And listen, as much as I think that Scooby Williams is going to have a good season for the Aggies, I think that it's the York show, and he's going to have a massive year. And I just think his stock has risen. Yes, obviously Coop's gone, but I think his stock has risen more because people are just buying into the hype around him. People know how good he's going to be. They know he's going to be one of the best linebackers in the SEC. And I really don't think there's any kind of debate to it. So those are 5 players whose stock have risen the most since the end of last football season. Texas A&M's defensive line unit was not top 10 in college football, according to On3. And I tell you this, that won't be the case at the end of the season. We'll have that conversation coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our wonderful friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn, highly recommend it. I've hired on LinkedIn before. It's the only place you should be. If you're looking for a job, you should be on LinkedIn. If you're looking for an employee, LinkedIn's where you need to be doing it. There's no better place in the world. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So, open up X/Twitter this morning. The first thing I see, we're getting into list season, ladies and gentlemen. SEC Media Days is approaching. We are starting to get into list season. And see list from On3, and it doesn't have Texas A&M's defensive line listed as a top 10 defensive line in college football. I'll tell you this, that is just flat out not correct, in my opinion. So let's run through the top 10. You got Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Oregon, Clemson, Ole Miss, Notre Dame, Florida State, Tennessee, Penn State. I know Walter Nolan is now with Ole Miss. I know that you lost McKinley Jackson, that we've already talked about. I know that you have lost some very solid players on this defensive line. But you have brought in some serious players. Nic Scourton, Cassius Howell, Rodas Johnson. You have brought in some solid defensive line help on top of the players that you already have. DJ Hicks, Shemar Turner, who we just got done talking about. Brunlo Dindy, Malaysia. I could sit here for 5 minutes and grow a gray beard before I list to you how many defensive linemen can legitimately help the Aggies this season. This unit is absolutely stacked. It just is. So here's the deal. Lists, do they matter? No, they don't. I'll tell you this, though. I think bulletin board material is a real thing. Some might say no. Some might say it's not. I say it is. I've been in, a college baseball locker room for a handful of years, and you know how many times I had a coach come in the locker room with a list saying, "No, you're picked to finish 4th in the conference. Are you going to really sit here and take that?" And it's like, make you mad. You know what I mean? It does. Anybody that's played a sport at any level, high school, college, you know that if your coach comes in and says, "Listen, they're doubting you," it's going to fire you up a little bit. And I think that Texas A&M's defensive line, I think if Coach Oko came in and slammed this picture against the wall, are they gonna work out just an ounce harder today? Maybe. It's the little things in the college football world that make make a difference. And I know this is a little thing, but I really do believe that it's going to fire this defensive line unit up. And this is D-line/edge, so it's not just interior guys. We're talking guys coming off the edge as well. And yeah, I'll say this once again, and I said it, I'll reiterate this. Please show me this list again at the end of the season. There is zero world, in my opinion, where this defensive line isn't a top 10 unit coming into the season. I just think these guys are that good. I think this coaching staff is developing. I think that Coach Elko, Coach Bateman is going to have this defense in a spot to succeed. Just everything about this, to me, everything about this defensive line is in a really good spot. I feel good about it. I think it's going to be a room that isn't going to have any trouble getting to the quarterback, isn't going to have any trouble stopping the run. I think that they're going to, we talk about, are we at all concerned with the secondary? Of course, you're concerned because you don't know. You don't know what it's going to be like. You don't know if it's going to be good or bad. And I think when that is the case, you have to hope this defensive line needs to put so much pressure on the quarterback that teams can't throw deep balls. Teams aren't going to have enough time to sit in the pocket and find somebody open way downfield. That's just not going to be a reality. So you need that from your defensive line. And I think it's very reasonable. I think it's very doable. I think this defensive line is going to be that good. So I think this is disrespectful to this unit. And I think that they're going to be ready. And no disrespect to any of these teams listed. These are all great defensive lines, edge rush rooms. They are. None of them are bad. I just think that Texas A&M, if you redo this list here in 7-8 months, the Aggies are going to be listed. It's just my opinion, and I don't think it's a far-fetched opinion. So more bulletin board material for this Texas A&M defensive line. One more short little conversation I want to have real quick has to do with the tight end room. I was sitting here thinking about Jake Johnson this morning. I was wondering what the depth chart's looking like over in North Carolina. And so I kind of just sat and thought to myself, has Texas A&M's tight end room gotten better or worse in the offseason? I think the answer is better. I hate losing Jake Johnson, but if you really think about it, you're bringing in all those transfers, the 3 transfers, but you're also bringing back Donovan Green, who really you kind of got to say, hey, he wasn't really in the room last year because of his injury. So you lose Jake Johnson, but you also you lose Max Wright, but you also bring in some talented transfers. We feel good about Watson. I like Miller. There's a lot to be excited about with these transfers. I think they've all played a lot of college football. I think they can help this team a ton. And then you get back a healthy Donovan Green, plus Jaden Platt is going to take that sophomore leap forward. I still think that he's got a really good college football career ahead of him, ladies and gentlemen. I think Jaden Platt is a player that we need to not overlook going forward. So I do think this tight end room is in a really good spot. I think you have an elite mix of guys who are going to be out there to block and guys who are going to be out there to go catch passes, and then guys who can do both. I do. I mean, I feel very confident with every tight end on this roster's ability to block and catch passes. So if you have a guy who is the run blocker, or you have a guy who is the receiver, however it ends up working out within this unit, I just feel all around really good about Texas A&M's tight end room. I think that these guys are going to catch a lot of passes. I think these guys are going to help create holes in the running game. I think these guys are going to do a lot of great things for this offense. They're going to help this offensive line when they need it, and they're going to go out and they're going to catch some passes. We know that Coach Klein loves to use the tight end room. He loves to use tight end room, and I think he's going to continue to do that here at Texas A&M, and I think he's got a really stacked unit in which to do it. So that's my opinion on the tight end room. I think it's gotten better. I love Jake Johnson. I think he's a great player, but I do also believe that this room's gotten better as a whole with the transfer portal and getting Donovan Green healthy. So yeah, I think this unit has gotten better over the offseason. We now know Texas A&M basketball's SEC opponents. We don't have dates. We don't have time. So we have opponents. And there's a lot of fun games coming up on the schedule. We'll talk about it coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. So let's get right into Texas A&M's opponents. At home, you play Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Georgia, LSU, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, and Vandy. On the road, you're going to go to Gainesville. You're going to go to Lexington, play the Kentucky Wildcats. Gainesville being the Florida Gators. You're going to go to LSU, into Baton Rouge. You're going to go to Ole Miss. You're going to go to Mississippi State. You're going to go to Missouri, to Oklahoma, to South Carolina, and to Texas. So you have a home and away with Oklahoma, Texas. Who else here? LSU. Who else am I missing? Is that it? No Missouri, no South Carolina, no Mississippi State, no Ole Miss. Yeah. So those are your home and aways. That's going to be a lot of fun. A home and away with Texas and a home and away with Oklahoma. It's going to be a lot of fun seeing those basketball games, ladies and gentlemen, as it's going to be fun to see the Aggies take on the Longhorns on the football field here soon. These basketball games are going to be a lot of fun as well. I'm excited about that. I think this is just a schedule that has a lot of fun home games for Texas A&M fans. I mean, listen, Alabama's going to be good. Auburn's going to be really good. Arkansas has Coach Calipari coming in from Kentucky. There's a lot of fun home opponents. Tennessee, Texas, Oklahoma, LSU. I mean, this is a really challenging but fun home schedule for Texas A&M fans. I think that it's also nice you don't have to go to Tuscaloosa or to Auburn. Those are two teams, Buzz Williams has had Bruce Pearl's number over the year, but the Tigers did get the best of the Aggies a year ago on the road. I think it's nice that you don't have to go there. You don't have to go there at all. They come to your place. I think that Alabama and Auburn are both going to be preseason top 15 teams. I think there's a chance Alabama's a top 5 team, Auburn's a top 10 team. So you're going to get both of those teams at your place. Tennessee's always good. Arkansas under Coach Calipari, I mean, we got to believe now. I mean, they're going to have a lot of talent and probably choke in the NCAA tournament, but they look good on paper right now. Tennessee, same thing. Texas, I'm sure they'll be okay. Oklahoma's going to be okay. It's going to be a fun home schedule. Fun for the fans, fun for the players. Then the road schedule. Don't like having to go to Gainesville. Tough place to play. I like their coach, Todd Golden. He's young. He's fiery. I think he's a great basketball coach. I don't like having to go there, but it'll be interesting to see how good the Florida Gators are. They always use the portal well. It's going to be definitely a tough game. Then you got to head to Rupp Arena to play the Kentucky Wildcats in Lexington, and this is an interesting game. They hire Mark Pope. A guy that played basketball at Kentucky, won a national championship for the Wildcats, and he's pretty much filling a roster with transfer portal guys. It'll be interesting to see how good is he going to be able to be. How good is his roster going to be? How good is his team going to be under Coach Mark Pope? I think that he's using the portal well now, but still, I mean, whether Texas A&M is a better or worse basketball team than the Kentucky Wildcats, going to play in Rupp Arena is a very intimidating venue. So not going to be an easy game to win. Then at LSU, a very winnable game. At Ole Miss, I know that Chris Beard's getting them better, but I still think it's winnable. Mississippi State, they're a team. Chris Jans, I think that that Hubbard kid's a great player. They're going to have some talent over there. They're always tough to beat. Missouri, it's going to be interesting to see how much of a turnaround is there this year from last year. I do think they ended up going winless, right, in the SEC, unless they won their last couple games of the year. Oklahoma, they were up and down last year, but a good program. South Carolina, same thing. They were kind of like a random powerhouse, and I think they're going to be good again this year. And then, of course, you got the Texas Longhorns. It'll be a tough place to play. They're not going to like you there. So the next step is going to be getting the dates and times and, the true schedule of these games. And that's when oh, man, you play Alabama at home Tuesday, Auburn at home on Saturday, and then you go to Kentucky the following Wednesday. Like, that's a gauntlet. That's when you find out the tough stretches of the schedule and how you really know kind of what you're working with. So that is when we'll really find out the schedule. We'll break that down more then. But that is Texas A&M's home and road opponents on the basketball court next season. A lot of fun games. I'm really looking forward to it. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. I really, really appreciate it. Hope everybody has an outstanding rest of their day today, and we will see you tomorrow.